Well, I grew up, as Steve did, on the Leeburg Trout Hatchery. Dad was a hatchery technician for the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. Back then it was the Oregon Game Commission. And so we moved up here when I was 1, so that was in 1951. And so grew up on the hatchery, and then, the McKenzie is home, even though I live in Corvallis. McKenzie will always be home. And so it's just kind of a magnet. You're always drawn back. As you can see, it's so gorgeous.
It was built in Salem, Oregon, and it was built, I'm going to say, early 60s, and it was given to a guy that lives, AJ, lives in Wilson, Wyoming, and it was given to him by Roger Fletcher, and they got it back there, and a tree fell on it, so they had to fix it, and this is just recently now, within the last year, and they took part of the floorboards, patched the hole, but the tree that fell on it, they built the floorboards out of the tree that fell on it. So it's got some character here.
This is Steve Shaefers' story. You're going to love this, guys.
I love it.
So I'm going to lead into it, and then we're going to let Brother Steve kind of finish it. But Shaefers was back in 1972, 71, some in there. Maybe it was 70, 71, 72. Was new to the valley. He grew up here and fished and all that. But he wanted to get a drift boat. And Steve was coming from a different part of society, and my father was used to dealing with. Go ahead. There's the lead in, the segue.
This might date us, probably not you guys. The hair length was quite, for most University of Oregon students, was rather long in those days. And
Shaefers
was a hippie. And he came walking up the driveway because he was ready to become a river guide. But he didn't have a boat, so like Stan said, he walked up the driveway, and Dad was probably pretty much, if not the first redneck, the second one. Well, come to find out, he was interested in the boat, so Dad was short, but gave him the information required. And by the time he came back and ordered the boat, they became immediate friends and helped. Steve probably helped Dad build 500-600 boats. This is Steve Shaefers' boat, 1750, and it's a brand new boat, never been in the water, and just completed a couple weeks ago as far as paint-wise, and so he's ready for the middle fork of the salmon this summer.
Standard boats have always been 1648, usually, but about 20 years ago I tried to get his dad to build me a 17-footer, and he did. And I love the 17-footers for the extra baggage room back here. Get a cooler in here, bigger cooler. And then I talked Steve into doing the 50-inch wide boat with the splice, and just gives you more room, more storage, because on these longer trips, we're carrying everything 5 or 6 days.
We felt we were child labor. Dad really, he was a master craftsman. He had, his value system was really passed on to us through his work ethic and through the shop. So we learned those values early on. There was a tremendous amount. Our weekends were spent at the boat shop. And if an order came in that he had to really work hard on, in other words, intensely to get out, say Clear Lake boats or whatever, there were many nights that we were there. And at the time I thought, what a taskmaster. And now I look back on it, and it's some of my most cherished moments of youth.
My name is Darrell Lyons, and I've been running rivers here in the state of Oregon for, let me see, many, many years. Let's put it that way. And you can tell by the look of my hair that I'm a mature blonde, and that's part of what goes along with getting history here in Oregon on these rivers. I've done all the major rivers in the state of Oregon: the Rogue, the McKenzie, the Deschutes, the Umpqua, and it takes a lot of skill. The key is learning to read the river. That's the most important part. knowing where the channel, how the river flows, what the structure is underneath that creates the surface of the water, so you know sometimes there's some question marks where to go. Sometimes it's a good guess. The beauty of a McKenzie boat is the rocker and the way it's designed to maneuver quickly around and down and sideways. That was the whole concept behind it. It's very maneuverable and fast-moving water.
I run both an aluminum boat, I ran fiberglass and wood, but the wood still feels right. There's something about them. They're little slot cars, they're quick, they're just fun to run, very maintenance intensive, so people that own them usually are persnicative, and but they're just really, when you look at them, and there's a reason Dad went back to the Smithsonian and built them, and they're American folk art.
You know, I've heard of aluminum, and I've seen several aluminum boats, but no, I've always run wood boats, mainly because I used to help in my slow time. I'd help his dad build boats, so I probably helped on 300 or 400 boats since 1975. The Helfrich green is a lighter green. Frank Brown green is this dark green, and I like the dark green. A lot of the guides had the stain boats too, the brown stain with the varnish over them. But I like this paint. This paint is made in Holland, and it's about $140 a gallon, so it's good paint. Woody Heineman was one of the early boat builders here on the McKenzie. Sure, you've heard his name, and I own 2 of these old stickers, Woody Heineman, Springfield, Oregon. And that's the sticker he put on in probably the 40s and the 50s and the early 60s, and then he moved to Crescent City, California. But this is one of the original stickers on Woody Heineman boats.
Randy Dersham and his wife own what was the original factory that made the kits for these boats, and they bought it. My cousin bought it as a kit. My first cousin built the boat with his son as a project, and they said it was too beautiful to put in the water. It sat in a warehouse for a few years, and I said, would you sell it to your cousin? He says, only to a cousin. And I've had it for a number of years, and I've used it. I've run the rivers, I've camped out of it. I use it like it's supposed to be used, but I respect it and take awesome care of it.
So that's what the Valley, I think the thing that I can remember about the Valley, it was a very accepting place. Once you sometimes had to get past the initial shock and awe, but McKenzie's still, and I think it's still that way today. It's a very accepting community.